Okay, let's dive right into this because today we are tackling a massive, kind of mind blowing misconception about human interaction. You see, most of us think that to be heard, to truly command a room, we need to speak more, raise our voices, or come up with the most brilliant, bulletproof arguments. But the sources we're unpacking today, which range from the psychology of influence to high level executive coaching, reveal the exact opposite. Communication isn't about speaking more, it's about making people actually want to listen to you.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in the middle of a passionate explanation, maybe a crucial pitch at work, or even just telling a story at dinner, only to realize the person across from you has completely glazed over? Yeah, it's a universally relatable, totally annoying frustration. But here is the secret that the most captivating people in the world understand. They actually command attention by speaking less. They don't demand the spotlight, they manufacture this almost magnetic pull. And to understand exactly how they do this, we first have to look at why we fail.
And that brings us to the absolute biggest communication mistake we all make. Just think about the normal flow of a conversation. When someone else is talking, our attention is almost always divided, right? We aren't actually listening to understand, we're listening to reply. We're usually just sitting there planning what we're going to say next, maybe pitching some exciting story of our own, or formulating a piece of advice. Honestly, we're just self-obsessed by nature. But here's the kicker. When we listen just to reply, it instantly destroys our influence because the other person can subconsciously feel that we aren't truly present. So to fix this, we turn to the strategies of Robert Greene, the author of The Art of Seduction and the Laws of Human Nature. Greene points out something fascinating. He says that trying to persuade someone by appealing directly to their conscious mind, like aggressively pushing your agenda, that just makes you one more irritation to be tuned out. Instead, master influencers take a completely different, almost counterintuitive route. They literally fade into the background. They make their targets the absolute center of attention, just observing them and letting them talk. And this brilliantly illustrates a core truth about human nature. Greene outlines what he calls the psychology of validation. Basically, no matter who you are talking to, they carry three nearly universal opinions about themselves. They believe, I'm autonomous, I'm intelligent, and I am basically good and decent. Now, when you step back and let them do the talking, you validate those opinions. You make them feel smart, good, and totally in control. This validation naturally lowers their defensive walls, making them wildly receptive to you and your ideas. Now, this isn't just theoretical psychology, okay? It is backed by hard data. As highlighted in the book Trillion Dollar Coach, a 2003 study from Lund University found that the simple act of listening makes people feel significantly more respected and visible. The book actually shares how legendary Silicon Valley coach Bill Campbell used this exact psychology with top executives. Picture a heated boardroom. Instead of arguing, Campbell would use respectful inquiry. He'd ask open questions and then just intently listen. A tense negotiation wouldn't be solved by shouting, but by Campbell sitting back, asking a CEO what they thought the core issue was, and letting silence do the heavy lifting. This heightened those executives' feelings of competence and autonomy. And you know what? When you make someone feel competent and respected like that, they will follow you anywhere. So, if listening and validating is the golden key, what's stopping us? Well, it's an internal saboteur we all share, the advice monster. This is that overwhelming, almost uncontrollable urge inside you that just wants to jump in, interrupt, and fix the other person's problem. We mistakenly believe that adding our 2 cents is how we add value to a conversation. But every single time that advice monster rears its head, you stop listening, you strip away their autonomy, and you pretty much guarantee they'll eventually stop listening to you. To actually tame this monster, we need a solid tactical framework. Enter Michael Bungay Stanier, author of The Coaching Habit. Stanier explains that the real secret sauce to great communication isn't having all the answers at all. It's building a habit of curiosity. His golden rule is remarkably simple, but man, is it incredibly hard to practice. Ask more and tell less. You literally have to actively tamp down your inner advice monster and replace it with a series of powerful, structured questions. So, how do we actually do this in practice? Well, it starts with the kickstart question. What's on your mind? This is an open, empowering way to start any conversation fast and get deep quickly. But the real magic happens with step 2, the ALE question. And what else? See, when they answer your first question, the response is rarely the actual problem. Asking, and what else, keeps your advice monster at bay and forces you to keep listening while they dig deeper into what's really going on. So the crucial point here is knowing how to ground the conversation when it inevitably starts to drift. People love to talk in big, abstract terms about we and us and general problems, right? When this happens, you deploy Stenier's focus question. What's the real challenge here for you? Adding those two little words, for you, is an absolute game changer. It cuts right through the noise and forces the person to look at their specific role in the situation, generating profound personal insight without you having to give a single piece of advice. Once you've identified the real challenge, you move to the foundation question. What do you want? Now, what's really interesting about this approach is how beautifully direct it is. In our attempt to be polite, we so often just talk in circles, but asking someone directly what they want actually pulls them toward their desired outcome. Once they actually articulate their destination out loud, the journey to get there suddenly becomes much, much clearer to them. You're basically guiding them to their own solution. Now, when you ask these powerful questions, something terrifying might happen. Silence. Stanier notes that just a few seconds of silence can feel like endless echoing bullet time from the Matrix. Your advice monster is going to scream at you to fill that void, but bite your tongue. Stay open, take a deep breath, and just wait. That silence is the exact space where their learning and insight is actually happening. And when they finally do answer, you have to resist that nervous habit of rushing to your next question or immediately offering your opinion. Instead, try building a powerful new habit. Simply acknowledge the reply with something like, yes, that's good. Now, this isn't about agreeing with everything they say. It's about validating their contribution. It proves that you're still deeply listening, and it keeps the emotional space open and safe. So bringing Greene's psychology and Stanier's tactics together, your new toolkit is pretty simple. First, cut off your internal monologue and transform into a deep listener. Second, watch their nonverbal cues, which, by the way, make up roughly 65% of communication. Third, mirror their words occasionally just to prove you understand. And above all, let them be the star of the show. If you do this, people will leave the interaction feeling better about themselves, and they will attribute that positive feeling entirely to you. Let's move to our final strategy and see how this builds into the absolute perfect way to wrap up any interaction. Stanier calls this the learning question. What was most useful here for you? Science tells us that memory retrieval, like forcing the brain to generate an answer rather than just reading or hearing it, dramatically increases retention. By asking them to articulate what was valuable about your chat, you literally embed the positive experience into their brain's hippocampus. It makes you look like an absolute genius, and all you did was ask a question. If you take away only one thing from this explainer, let it be this massive paradigm shift. Instead of talking more, I will listen deeper. The people who change lives, who influence outcomes, and who instantly capture a room's attention aren't always the loudest. They're not the ones dominating the conversation. They're the ones who have mastered their own ego, tamed their advice monster, and discovered the incredible power of making others feel completely and truly heard. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Look back on your own life. Who is the best listener you've ever met? When you were around them, how did they make you feel about yourself? And what specific habits did they use that made them so different from everyone else? Take those lessons, apply this framework, and just watch how quickly people start hanging on to your every word.